Hey, how's it going, everybody? So it's Jamie here, and I'm going to talk to you about the 3 steps you need to take if you want to get an A on your typical law exam. So I'm going to be speaking about this from personal experience and from experiences that I've heard from other people who have done well on law exams. So you definitely want to take good notes on this if you are about to take your first exams. Maybe you're a 1L student, or maybe you're even a 2 or 3L, and you're like, okay, I really want to buckle down and do better. So the first tip, and this is the most important part, is that whenever you're covering a case in your textbook, in your law book, you want to make sure that you're noting down through either Westlaw's KeyCite or LexisNexis HeadNotes the major holdings to the case. So what this means is that usually when you're a first-year law student, you're going to get some sort of free access to Westlaw or LexisNexis. So you're going to use those search engines in order to pull up the cases that you cover in class, and you want to go to either the KeyCites or the HeadNotes. And if you didn't know what those things are, those are kind of the key points, the key holdings from the case. And you want to note those down digitally, usually for convenience, into something like OneNote or whatever you take your notes in. And that way you have a very clearly articulated and outlined format for seeing all the major points from the case, what they are ruling on. Now, of course, there are facts and things like that to distinguish on, but by and large, you're going to find that the real meat of a case is best viewed if you look at Westlaw's KeyCites at the top of a case or LexisNexis HeadNotes. That's really where the key operative language is for understanding what that case's significance is. And it's also really important for the cases that are old, and you might be wondering, what is really the most important part? You want to look at Westlaw KeyCites and LexisNexis HeadNotes. Secondly, you want to make sure that you get a copy of past A, and I say A to be whatever the grade is that's considered A for your class, but A papers from your professor, and practice copying them word for word. So what this means is that you might get a couple of past exams, and most professors out there are going to have this. They're going to have a couple of past exams that they'll show for quality papers, and you want to take a look at them and actually practice typing that out word for word. And the reason is because if you practice doing that, you're going to get a sense of what it feels like to write a good paper. And even as you read it, you might see, there might be better ways to phrase something, or maybe something you can add on that you've learned, or changes in case law. But by writing out the exact wording for a really good paper, you get a sense of what the professor kind of expects for having a quality outcome. And just the rote practice of looking through the person's paper and typing it back out is going to help you see, okay, this is what I need to do in order to do well. And I did that for several classes, and I can tell you I got really good grades in the classes that I did it in. And I did that in my first year torts class, pulled off an A in that class just by copying the past A papers and writing it down and analyzing them and taking a look at that. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do in order to write well. And this is what the professor is expecting. So after you have your notes down and the kind of the key things from the cases, then you can go and take a look at past papers and copy them and get a sense of what it's like to write a good paper. Lastly is you want to take some time to speak with your professor about anything you're unsure about. So after you have good notes and you've been taking a look at what the kind of model outcome is, then you want to make sure that you take some time to speak to the professor, because if you talk to him and her about what it is that you're confused about, or maybe something specific from a case that you weren't understanding, the facts, you're going to get a really good idea of what that professor is looking for, what that professor is really concerned about. So again, if you take the time to go through these steps and you look at the key HeadNotes or KeyCites, the major facts and holdings, the major rulings from the cases, and then you take a look at the exams, and you see, okay, this is the kind of format that I need to have something that is considered quality by a professor, you're going to be in really good shape when you come to talk to the professor about anything you're unsure about or want to get clarity on. So if you follow these steps, by and large, you're going to do really well. Now, you never know what's going to happen because of curves, thanks to most schools having some sort of curve with A papers, but if you follow these steps and really apply it in your studies, and especially make a good notebook if you have a open book exam, something that you can quickly reference, it's going to save you a whole lot of time by having all the key parts already laid out from the Westlaw, either KeyCites or the LexisNexis HeadNotes. You really can't beat having that. So you definitely want to focus on that. And one other thing that's kind of like an aside is sometimes whenever I wrote papers, if I knew the professor liked to be funny, I might include a little funny thing in there. Like I remember in my torts exam, I talked about how there was a really large woman who got hurt in some haunted house, and I said, well, maybe she was, unreasonably fat, as a joke, talking about, reasonable standard in terms of judging harms with torts. And I think my professor kind of got a kick out of that, and so that may have helped my grade. So if you see little opportunities like that, there's nothing wrong with playing to the nuances of your professor and what they might enjoy, find funny or interesting. I mean, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to edge yourself out of that curve, especially if you're in a curved class. So hopefully this helps you do well, especially if you're a 1L and not really sure what to study best. This kind of methodology here is a great way to set yourself up straight. And I wish I had more help figuring that out early, but I had to learn it the hard way through all 3 years of law school. All right, talk to y'all later, everybody.